Ethan Vance grew up in a gilded cage of wealth and paranoia. The heir to the Vance fortune, his childhood was forever fractured at age 5 by a kidnapping. Though rescued physically, a part of his spirit remained locked away. His grandfather, the formidable patriarch Alistair Vance, responded with walls of protection. A team of impassive bodyguards became Ethan's constant shadows. To coax his withdrawn grandson back into the world, Alistair made a staggering decision. He adopted 3 girls, Sophia, Maya, and Chloe, presenting them as companions and future brides for Ethan to choose from. It was an archaic tradition, but in the isolated Vance estate, it became their normal. The 4 children grew up intertwined. For a time, Ethan felt a fragile sense of safety, surrounded by his protectors and his 3 radiant friends. Sophia, with her preternatural grace and commanding eyes, always held a special place. That fragile peace shattered when Ethan was 14. His father's best friend died in an accident, leaving behind a son, Caleb. Out of duty, the Vances took him in. Caleb was a chameleon. To the adults, he was the picture of grateful, quiet sorrow. To Ethan, he was a subtle poison. It began with small things: a cherished model airplane broken, a favorite book misplaced, always when only Ethan and Caleb were near. Ethan would complain, but Sophia would soothe him. "He's adjusting, Ethan. Be kind. You have so much, and he has nothing." The shift was gradual. Laughter that once echoed with Ethan's now centered around Caleb. Shared glances between the 3 girls, and the newcomer held secrets Ethan wasn't privy to. His parents, seeing the full house and hearing no arguments, began traveling more for business, leaving the teenagers under the watch of the staff whose loyalties Caleb quietly co-opted with sympathy and clever lies. The pool incident was the turning point. Ethan saw Caleb teetering by the edge. Instinct propelled him forward to help. But as he reached out, Caleb's face morphed from a neutral expression into one of sheer terror. He let himself fall backward into the water, screaming, "Ethan, no. I'll listen. I can't swim. Please, save me." Ethan froze, confused. That moment of hesitation was all it took. "Ethan!" Sophia's shriek pierced the air. He turned to see her, Maya, and Chloe sprinting across the patio. They didn't stop to ask. They shoved past him, their shoulders knocking his slight frame off balance. He plunged into the water beside the flailing Caleb. As the chlorinated water burned his nostrils, Ethan saw them, a blur of concerned faces hovering over Caleb, pulling him to safety. Not a single glance was spared for the air, sinking into the deep end, his lungs burning. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Sophia cradling Caleb's head in her lap, her expression tender. Despair, colder than the water, flooded his heart. He woke in a sterile hospital bed. Sophia was at his side, her hand cool on his forehead. "You need to rest," she murmured. When he croaked out that he hadn't pushed Caleb, her eyes hardened ever so slightly. "We all saw you, Ethan. Don't make it worse." Maya burst in, her face livid, and grabbed his wrist. "You need to apologize. Now." Broken, outnumbered, and still gasping for air, Ethan was led to Caleb's room. Under the combined pressure of their disappointed gazes, he uttered the apology that tasted like ash. This became the pattern. Caleb's schemes grew bolder: sabotaged school projects, stolen heirlooms planted in Ethan's room. Each time Ethan gathered the courage to tell his parents, Sophia would intercept him. Her persuasion was a masterclass in emotional manipulation, blending affection with veiled threat. "Do you really want to upset your father? He's so stressed. They'll think you're jealous. I'll be disappointed." If he persisted, the united front would assemble. Caleb's tearful denials, the girls' corroboration, even the household staff's hesitant claims of seeing young Master Ethan acting strangely. At school, Caleb wove a devastating narrative: Ethan, the spoiled biological son, tormenting the poor, adopted orphan. When Ethan defended himself, Chloe arrived at school one day, summoned by Caleb. In front of a gathered crowd, she confirmed Caleb's stories with tearful conviction, protecting Caleb's reputation. Ethan's world shrank to a cell of isolation and scorn. One afternoon, cornered in the library, Ethan finally snapped. "Why are you doing this? Just stop." Caleb, seeing they were alone, let his pleasant mask fall completely. A cold, triumphant smirk twisted his features. "I won't stop," he whispered, "until everything that's yours is mine." He gave Ethan a sharp, provoking shove. For the first time, rage overrode conditioning. Ethan's hand flew out, catching Caleb across the cheek with a stinging slap. The door swung open. Sophia stood there, having perfectly timed her entrance. She saw the red mark on Caleb's face, Ethan's hand still raised. "Ethan." Her voice was a whip crack. She rushed to Caleb, shielding him. "How dare you? If you keep behaving like this, I will never marry you." The words stole the breath from Ethan's lungs. Before he could stammer an explanation, Sophia turned to the two bodyguards lingering in the hall, his bodyguards. "Hold him. Make him apologize." Ethan struggled as their hands meant to protect him, pinned him against a bookcase. "Sophia, he pushed me first," he said. A heavy, open-handed blow from one guard silenced him. Pain exploded across his already bruised soul. Blow after humiliating blow fell until, through swollen lips and a haze of tears, he choked out the demanded, "I'm sorry." That night, face throbbing, he tried to video call his parents. Sophia glided into his room, her expression shifting from faux concern to icy calm as she saw the phone. She snatched it just as his mother's face appeared. "Aunt Vivian." "Everything's fine," Sophia chirped, turning the screen to her flawless smile. "We're just having a little sleepover. Ethan's being a silly goose, worried over nothing." She motioned sharply for Maya and Chloe, who descended on Ethan, laughing too loudly, pulling him into a suffocating, performative hug until the call ended. The smile dropped from Sophia's face. She tossed the tube of ointment she'd been carrying into the trash. 2 days, she stated flatly. "Think about your behavior." They locked him in his room, a prisoner in his own home. When his parents' car crashed, killing them instantly, Ethan's world ended. He was catatonic with grief. Caleb locked him in his room again, telling the mourning household Ethan was too volatile and disrespectful to attend the funeral. The disgust directed at him was palpable. In the eerie silence afterward, Sophia came to him. She took his hand, her touch now the only familiar anchor in a dissolving world. "I've spoken to Grandpa," she said softly. "He agrees it's for the best. To stabilize the family, we should get married." It felt less like a proposal and more like a life sentence, but Ethan, shattered and alone, grasped at this straw of normalcy. He agreed. The wedding was a somber, swift affair. The inheritance was immediately restructured. Sophia, at 21, became CEO of Vance Holdings. Maya took over PR, Chloe headed internal affairs, and Caleb was installed as a special projects director. Ethan, the husband, the heir, was given a hollow title and an empty office. He tried to learn, to involve himself, but was met with condescension or dismissal. "Just enjoy your life, darling," Sophia would say, her kisses now brief and perfunctory. "We handle the stressful parts." The final pawn fell during a visit to his ailing grandfather. Alistair, his eyes still sharp, tried to speak to Ethan alone, but Sophia was a constant shadow. When Ethan poured the old man his tea, a rare moment of clumsy normalcy, he didn't see Caleb slip something from his sleeve. Minutes after drinking, Alistair Vance convulsed and died, his eyes locked on a horrified Ethan. The police investigation was swift. Sophia, the powerful new CEO, vouched for her husband. There was no evidence, only Ethan's gnawing, unshakable guilt. Had he fumbled? Had he somehow caused it? The weight of the accusation, first a bully, now a killer, crushed what remained of his spirit. He surrendered completely, a ghost in his own life. Years bled by. Ethan became a docile, hollow-eyed specter. Then, Caleb fell ill. Kidney failure. Forged documents miraculously surfaced, naming Ethan a perfect match. Sophia, with tears in her eyes the first he'd seen for him in years, pleaded. "It's the one thing you can do to make amends, for everything. To show you're part of this family." Numb, Ethan agreed. The surgery left him weak and alone in a recovery room. No flowers, no visits. Only the impersonal care of nurses. On the day of his discharge, they finally came. Caleb, Sophia, Maya, and Chloe, a united front of false cheer. As Sophia dealt with paperwork, Caleb approached Ethan's bed. "Oops, I dropped my phone," he muttered, letting it fall onto Ethan's chest. A video was playing. Explicit, intimate. It was Caleb, with Sophia. Then Maya. Then Chloe. A montage of betrayal. Ethan's breath hitched. The phone was snatched away. Sophia had seen. Her face flushed, then contorted in rage, not at Caleb, but at Ethan. "You vile little." He grabbed it. Caleb cried, the lie effortless. "He said he knew about us. He threatened to expose everything unless I showed him." The clumsy lie worked. The vitriol that followed was a familiar storm. "Ungrateful wretch. After all we've done. We'll make you wish you'd never." Caleb cut in, placing a hand on Sophia's abdomen. "Sophia, remember the baby. Don't stress. The baby." Ethan looked at her, his eyes finally empty of all hope, holding only a vast, silent desolation. "Sophia," he whispered. "Why?" She recoiled slightly from the void in his gaze, then lifted her chin. "Because Caleb is the man we love. He didn't trap us in a gilded cage. You were never our choice. You were our prison sentence." As the women were ushered out by Caleb to talk, Caleb leaned in for the final twist of the knife. His voice was a venomous delight. "I told you I'd take everything. Everything. Your parents' car. A faulty brake line is so easy to arrange. That little friend of yours, Scarlett. Always sniffing around, defending you. A tragic fall from the library roof silenced that. And your dear grandpa, that poison was my masterpiece. The girls just helped clean up the loose ends. They were so eager to be free of him." Something in Ethan, something that had been bending for a decade, finally snapped. The grief, the betrayal, the stolen lives, all crystallized into a single, silent point of pure, undiluted vengeance. His eyes swept the room, landing on a forgotten, sharp-edged metal chart holder by the bedside. Caleb was still gloating, savoring his victory. Ethan moved. It wasn't the movement of a victim, but of a force of nature unleashed. The metal edge found Caleb's throat in a savage, terminal arc. A gurgle, not a scream, was his last sound. Maya walked in, a question on her lips that died as she saw Caleb collapsing. Her scream was cut short as Ethan was already upon her, the same cold metal ending her betrayal. Chaos erupted in the hallway. Ethan, painted in crimson, saw Chloe pushing through the crowd, her face a mask of shock. He lunged, a whirlwind of focused fury, striking again and again until she fell. Sophia stood frozen at the periphery, the dreadful truth dawning. She met Ethan's eyes across the chaos. In them, she saw not the boy she'd manipulated, but the final, terrible consequence of her cruelty. He charged. The impact drove the makeshift blade deep and carried them both through the plate glass window of the fifth-floor room. They fell entwined, a grotesque parody of a wedding dance, and the ground rose to meet them with absolute finality. Epilogue. Darkness. Then sensation. Ethan was being dragged. Animal instinct surged. He bit down hard on the arm gripping him, tasting blood. The grip loosened in surprise and pain. He ran, bare feet slapping cold stone, head pounding, vision blurred with residual rage and confusion. He collided with a solid form. Strong arms enveloped him, lifting him. He fought, limbs flailing, but the embrace was familiar. Safe. He went still, trembling. He looked up. Into the face of his father. Alive. Young. Eyes wide with concern. Tears, hot and uncontrollable, burst from Ethan. A sob racked his tiny frame. The stress, the whiplash of realities, was too much. He surrendered to the darkness once more. He awoke in a sun-drenched room. The wallpaper, racing cars. The bed, too small. He looked at his hands. Small, smooth, unmarked by time or violence. He burst out of his room, tears streaming anew. There, in the morning light of the family lounge, were his parents and his grandfather, all alive, all vibrant. He threw himself into them, his small body trembling with the echo of a nightmare that felt more real than memory. Alistair Vance held his grandson, perplexed by the violent emotion. "Ethan, my boy, what's all this?" Ethan pulled back, clutching his grandfather's lapels with desperate urgency. The words tumbled out, the wisdom of a ghost from a terrible future. Grandpa. I don't want any child brides. No Sophia, no Maya, no Chloe. And I want to learn. Krav Maga, boxing, everything. I need to be strong. I need to protect myself. Alistair looked from his grandson's deadly serious, tear-streaked face to his confused son and daughter-in-law. The old man had seen many things, but never such raw, profound terror and resolve in a child's eyes. He saw not a whimsical demand, but a vital plea for survival. A slow, grave nod. He pulled Ethan close again. No brides, he promised, his voice thick with a dawning understanding he could not explain. And starting tomorrow, the finest combat instructors money can hire. You will be strong, Ethan. I swear it. As Ethan clung to his family, the ghost of a smile touched his lips, the first genuine one in a lifetime, or perhaps, the first of a new one. The game was not over. It had just reset. And this time, he knew all the players, and every single one of their moves.